All right, my name is Amber Driver. I'm from Elkedra Station, northeast of Alice Springs. And if you don't mind, I'll just read off my
Absolutely,
submission.
that's fine.
Thank you. Good morning to the Inquiry Chair, Justice Pepper, and everybody that is here with us today or observing via live stream for the public hearing for the scientific inquiry into hydraulic fracturing of onshore unconventional reservoirs in Northern Territory. My presentation this morning is only brief, and I am addressing this inquiry into hydraulic fracturing from a non-scientific background in layman's terms that are understood within the pastoral industry and on behalf of a fourth-generation family owned and operated cattle station. A brief outline before I get into my questions. The National Livestock Identification System, NLIS, are required to notify authorities of cattle movements, whether it be moving stock to sale, adjustment or relocation. If any anomalies are detected in our beef at any point along the supply chain, the authorities can trace the product back to the specific property and even to the specific paddock. Cattle producers across Central Northern Territory are fortunate to be able to say we produce and have the ability to produce organic, grass-fed beef for our chosen markets. We have the capacity to produce a product, that's cattle, for live export, store markets, feedlots, stud stock, local meatworks and the like, that is free from any form of hormone growth promotants, drenches, injections, sprays or antibiotics. Not only that, we can say that they, the cattle, are grazing on pastures that are free from fertilisers, sprays, defoliants, insecticides and the like. When I extend the fact that in Central Australia we can produce a quality, clean, organic, free-range product one step further, I'm at the point where I address water quality. This is where my question to you, Justice Pepper and the board, and of the scientific inquiry sits. Up until this point, pastoralists have been in control of what their cattle eat, pastures free from chemical, breathing clean fresh air, and now with hydraulic fracturing occurring within our properties, we have lost the control of assuring that our water remains free from chemical residue. Given that cattle producers are in an industry in Central Australia that delivers clean organic beef to Australia and markets all over the world, what ramifications do you see for our industry if well integrity through hydraulic fracturing is compromised and our water supply is no longer delivering clean drinking water to our stock clear of chemical residue? Any trace of chemical residue from hydraulic fracturing detected in our beef will void our organic status and in turn will destroy not only our business and reputation as organic beef producers, it has the potential to affect the entire Central Australian beef industry. How do you, or do you even know, when your wells have been compromised and there is chemical leaking into our water supplies that we rely on for our stock to drink? Do you have an obligation to pastoralists who rely on the flow of chemical-free water to remain chemical-free, and that's chemical residue, to protect our business of producing organic beef? What safeguards do you have in place to ensure that if there is hydraulic fracturing occurring on properties or within our water basin and the wells are compromised, you are not shutting down an entire industry that relies and stands by its branding, organic certified beef? I put it to you that hydraulic fracturing is gambling with our business, our future livelihood, and that of our children and the generation to follow, and the integrity of an organic industry in Central Australia. Organic certification is being sought after and gained by many pastoralists. If hydraulic fracturing causes chemical residue on a property that has not yet applied for organic certification, this would end any chance of that property ever gaining organic certification. In turn, this would limit future growth and opportunity. The ramifications are extreme. An example of worth of organic status can be explained as follows. On the 19th of April 2016, a price grid sent out by Tees Beanley Meatworks in Queensland offered the following money. For a 700 kilo bullock, non-organic certification yielded $2,421. The same 700 kilo bullock with organic status yielded $3,196. This is a 32% premium, which equates to $775 per head. Central Australian pastoralists have the capacity to sell 600 bullocks per year, and if the organic status becomes void due to chemical residue due to hydraulic fracturing, the pastoralists stand to lose the organic premium of up to $465,000 per year. $465,000 per year. In my opinion, we cannot take a drill and see approach. This will be at our peril when chemical residue contaminates our properties and product. It will be too late for our businesses when data collection that can only occur when you're in the field exploring shows that our water has traces of chemicals only associated with hydraulic fracturing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I do have 2 copies.
Excellent. If you can hand a copy of that to any of the people sitting at that table, and that will be loaded onto our website. And thank you very much for those figures and for that perspective as well, which we haven't been given so far, so we're very appreciative of that. Yes, any questions? Yes, Dr. Jones.
Yes, Ms. Driver, I'm acutely, I think we all are acutely aware of the possibility of contamination by this industry, by water or by air. Do you have any evidence from your perhaps research about how the organic industry could perhaps have been compromised elsewhere, for example, from US or Canadian experience? That would be very...
From what experience?
From US or Canadian experience, for example, where there is an industry, or even in say, Queensland, the CSG industry.
South Australia.
Or South Australia. Do you have any evidence from your industry colleagues or in other areas of this issue having arisen?
I can find, I can do that information and look for that information, but I've certainly seen through Queensland and through a lot of social media sources and news sources that is a problem, and I'm not looking at, I can't give you a scientific answer to that, but I know that it has been a shared problem throughout Queensland that I have seen myself.
I guess it's not necessarily even so much a quantitative scientific measure, it's perhaps just the perception of your customers that something mightn't be right.
Well, really from where I sit, it's the potential of the well integrity. How do you know if your wells have been compromised? We don't know because we can't see them. So this is a predicament I feel that we're in as a family. Even if hydraulic fracturing is not occurring on our property, if it's on a neighbouring property or within the water basin and the well integrity has been compromised with a chemical residue, it's an unknown to me what you're going to do or what's going to happen, because once that water's pumped and our cattle are drinking it, it's too late for us. So I'm answering your question with a question, I realise, but
Well, basically what you're saying is adopt the precautionary principle rather than waiting till it's too late.
And how do you find out? Like, that's the thing, as a pastoralist, how do I get that information? Do I have to go to my bores every day and test it? Is that up to me to do that? I'm not the one fracturing. So is it up to me to add that to my job list every day just to check that the well integrities of something that may be occurring in our area is not affecting me?
Yes.
So,
quite right about that onus of proof and where it lies in terms of the monitoring regime.
yeah, and that is also a concern.
Yes, Dr. Beck.
Thank you very much for your detailed presentation and alerting us to the issue of organic beef producers. Can you give some indication of how many organic beef producers there are in the Territory and what the herd number would be?
That is, I would love to give you those figures, and I think I can't accurately do that without gathering some information for you. And I'm not sure how I'll go about doing that, but I could certainly start getting on the phone and getting those numbers and asking the producers in our area. Organic certification isn't an overnight process. It can take up to 5 years.
And it can be lost very easily, very quickly.
Absolutely. So, in my point of view, we have to be really mindful of that fact. Because if we're talking about developing the North and Australia and within various ways, there's a big question mark that hangs over this because if we do have chemical residue come through hydraulic fracturing, you're not developing our industry.
I will understand the point you're making.
And I'm going to make a note of that actually to produce some numbers for you on how many producers are currently organic certified and how many are in that process, and try and get a snapshot of some numbers for you.
That would be very helpful, thank you. Yeah, I know this is not going to give you any comfort, but I think it was last week we were visiting Queensland and we went to a number of properties that had hydraulic fracturing going on, and one of the properties had 60 CSG coal seam gas wells, and it was a feedlot producer. So there was close integration. Admittedly, they weren't organic certified, but there was close interaction between CSG wells and beef feedlot producers, and we saw that in a number of other properties too. So, as I said, it doesn't give you any comfort, but just to let you know that there is side-by-side development in terms of gas wells and beef production.
Yeah, I take your point and I understand that, but I'm talking about organic. So, and I don't know because I don't know their situation, but it's a very strict set of guidelines and there are a number of avenues that you have to get through to gain those certifications. And in Central Australia, we really are an anomaly in that area because our pastures aren't fertilised, our water is clean, and our cattle do not require any drenches, dips, worming. There is no input of a chemical substance in the beef collectively in Central Australia. So it's a big market that doesn't really occur much throughout Australia. And more and more pastoralists are coming on board with an organic movement and doing the hard yards, getting these certifications. And yeah, hence the presentation today.
Thank you.
And some, if you can, again, if you're able to obtain this information, give us an idea in due course of how much this industry is worth. That would be quite useful as well. Thank you. It's really important. Thank you. Yes, Professor Hart.
Could I just probe a little bit more in terms of the certification? And in fact, if you have a copy of the guidelines and could provide it to us, that'd be very useful. But I'm just wondering, rightly, you've pointed out the potential risks of contamination of the groundwater source and the implications for the pastoral industry. I'm just wondering whether the guidelines, the organic certification guidelines, have any mention at all of water quality?
Look, we have to prove and under strict testing that our meat has no form of chemical residue in it. Doesn't matter how it's going to get into the meat, but That's the major concern for us. So and at the start of my presentation where I talked about the National Livestock Identification System, if along any point in the supply chain there is testing for chemical residue and it turns up, this could be on your shelf in Coles in Sydney. Through this NLIS system, they have the potential to trace it back to the meatworks that got processed, to the truck that took it there, to the property it came from, to the person they bought it off, to the paddock it was born in. So, and that's a national livestock identification system. So really, any point along that chain, that's what that's why I added that in. It's just to provide you. I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, it's not that the groundwater is devoid of chemicals. It does have chemicals in it, not contaminants in that sense. So one of the issues that we have in terms of applying a risk approach to it is we need to, taking your leaky well example, we need to assess what's the likelihood, the probability of that occurring, and then we need to think, get as much quantitative information as we can about, so what's the consequences? So then we've got the potential of who's going to use that water, let's say contaminated water. It's the pastoral industry, so that's where your beef comes into consideration. It's the aquatic ecology and it's humans, potentially. So that's where what you've just been giving us information on is very useful in terms of us trying to work out what are the chemicals that might come from hydraulic fracking into the water column, into the groundwater resource, and then potentially then off to the beef. So we're coming back a stage, if you like, on your process that you say certification requires. Anywhere it occurs, we're very focused on the water component. It's very focused on drinking.
Yeah.
Stop drinking water.
Yeah. So for human consumption with the water, that a lot of these bores aren't. You just can't drink it because of the minerals that are there and it's not drinkable, so it would have to go through filtration. But when we pump it for our stock, they're just drinking it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Beck.
Can I just clarify that a little further? In the organic certification, I'm not sure whether they, and just picking up upon your point of no chemical residues, I'm not sure in the organic certification, and I appreciate your advice on this, whether there is no chemical residues or whether in the certification process specific chemicals are listed that aren't able to be present in the beef at the point of sale.
Yeah, that's something that I can't answer for you straight away without doing some more research.
Sorry, I think we keep asking you questions and loading you up with tasks.
Yeah.
But this is, you're the first person
Yeah.
who's come here to talk about this, and as
Yeah.
you can tell, we're now very interested.
Yeah, and I will endeavour. I'll endeavour to capture all of the questions and provide you with some good information with references, because I think when I have these discussions with other pastoralists that, on both sides, ones that have been organically certified, and there's a lot of different organic certification that you can get. It's not just one. There's a lot of different hoops that you have to, a lot of different things that you can get certified for. So I definitely will be capturing what is required and what people have, their experiences have been so far.
I know it's very complicated. It takes a long time, and I also know, as I said before, that it is very easily lost and very quickly and easily lost. So yes, we'd be very appreciative of that. We have been to Hayfield and Maryfield pastoral stations and had a look at, spent time with the lessees there and talked to those people and toured the properties, but we haven't had any experience at all with any organic pastoral leases. So that'd be very, very useful.
Yeah.
Anything else at all? Again, thank you very much for your very interesting and I think very important presentation.
Okay,
We appreciate it.
thank you. Would you like me to submit this now and then follow up
Yeah,
with some
absolutely.
extra
Just-
information?
Thank you. If you just give it to a member of the task force, and it'll get entered into our system and uploaded onto the website.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for hearing me today.
Thank you for coming.